And Your Honor, this is Court Interpreter Pedro Davis. It appears we have no Spanish speakers on this evening's 2XIA list.
Yes.
I can wait for confirmation and I'll ask to be excused then.
Sure. Give me 1 second. Mr. Poston, are you having trouble or are you able to come on the microphone? All right, might be having some difficulty there. Let me just confirm with the jail. Do you have any? I've not seen anybody on the list tonight who are Spanish. I need a Spanish interpreter. Are you seeing anything different?
There's no Spanish.
Okay, with that, then the interpreter is excused for the night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good evening.
All right. Mr. Poston, if you are having difficulty, can you please try and either call the clerk or I'm not sure, is there a chat function that you can play? Right. Sure. All right. Well, yeah, just give it a minute. I don't want him to be shortchanged.
All these are not together. It's gonna get phony.
Forgive me, Your Honor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
I really a lot of trouble.
All right. Well, I think he's going to be. Did you just log off? Yeah.
Good evening, Your Honor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's get started. Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Yep.
Kurt James Younger, sir.
All right, Mr. Younger. Good evening. This time set for your initial appearance. You are here on charges of aggravated domestic violence. To remind you, sir, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you, and the attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please direct them to your attorney before speaking up on video. I reviewed the pretrial services workup to get some more information about this case, and obviously reviewed the interim complaint for which I do find probable cause. Does the state have a recommendation as to conditions of release?
Your Honor, the state is asking for a $60,000 bond. He's an NVCAS. He's a 4 and a 3. He's in custody on 2 other convictions. The Form 4C also shows that he's a high risk, and he's violated an OK. He's on DV probation in city court, and he's got multiple priors in the last 84 months, the statutory period. We think he's a distinct danger, continuous risk to the victim and the community.
Thank you. Defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd be asking for a much lower bond, though we do agree a bond is appropriate here, mostly because Mr. Younger is already being held on a $1,500 bond on his pending misdemeanor matters. That was imposed March 9th, and he has not been able to pay that to get out. So $60,000 is most certainly not the least onerous conditions considering his financial situation. He doesn't have any felony priors since 2007 and actually got it designated a misdemeanor. So given all those factors and his current financial situation, we'd be asking for no more than a $7,000 bond.
And just note that pretrial services was not able to reach the victims or any of the alleged victims on the line right now.
And Your Honor, it does say they were able to reach the victim.
Apologies. Yeah, and I apologize. I misspoke. The alleged victim was contacted and does not wish to have any contact, and I'm sorry, does not wish to have contact and but does not object to release. So, so I'm going to impose a $20,000 cash secured bond in order that if you are able to post that you be released to this supervision of pretrial services. I'm going to set a hearing for you on March the 31st at 1:30 p.m. It's a preliminary hearing. And like I mentioned before, the Pima County Public Defender's Office is going to be representing you. If you are able to post that bond, then standard conditions of release will apply, to include, most importantly, that you are not to have any contact whatsoever with the alleged victim in this case, to include going to their place of work or residence. That's any kind of contact, sir, third party, indirect, through digital means, or in person. No contact whatsoever. Do you understand?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Then that's all I have for you. Please make sure if you do post that bond that you do make contact with your attorney as soon as possible, and that you are, more importantly, at the hearing on the 31st. Otherwise, a warrant could issue for your arrest. All right, that's it. Good luck to you, sir.
Let's sit down. Oh. Let's sit down.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Brian Patrick King.
King, it's time set for your initial appearance. I have two matters for you tonight, sir. First is you are being held on a warrant out of the Pima County Justice Court for failing to appear in a criminal matter involving criminal trespass in the second degree. The requested bond in that case is $250. I'm going to honor that request and impose a bond of $250, cash or secured, and set a hearing for you in that case for tomorrow at 1 p.m. So if you are still in custody at that time, you'll either be transferred or seen via video in front of Judge Foster. If you do post bond, please make sure and be at your hearing tomorrow at 1 p.m. or another warrant could issue for your arrest. And next we have, I'm sorry, in that matter, I'm also going to be appointing Mr. Douglas Taylor to represent you. His contact information will be in the paperwork you'll receive. In the next case we have for you, we have matters in the, wait, I'm sorry. Apologies, I have three matters for you. Second matter, at a Pima County Justice Court, you have charges of trespass in the second degree and possession of drug paraphernalia. Excuse me. I'm going to release you on those on those matters, but since you were being held, I'll set your hearing, your arraignment rather, for those cases for the same time tomorrow at 1 p.m. So you don't have to make 2 trips down to the courthouse. Please make sure and make that court hearing if you are out of custody. Third matter, and for you is, let's see, a warrant out of the Tucson City Court for failing to appear in another matter involving criminal trespass in the 3rd degree. The judge in that case ordered, or requested rather, a $250 unsecured appearance bond. In that matter, sir, I'm gonna honor the bond, or honor the warrant's request for $250. Cash secured. I'm going to appoint the Tucson City Public Defender's Office to represent you in that matter and set this for a video review hearing on March 28th at 1:45 p.m. So you'll be seen much in the same fashion you're right now via video, and this is going to be assigned to the judge covering courtroom 6. You'll be receiving paperwork with all these dates on it, sir, but please just make sure that you are attending all hearings and making contact with any counsel that's been appointed for you. And that's it, sir. You're good for the evening. Have a nice night.
Should we go outdoors, downstairs to the males? Let's see if you're up right here.
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Lionel Askew.
I'm sorry, what was the name?
Lionel Askew.
Mr. Askew, good evening. This time set for your initial appearance. Remind you, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be held against you. Have you here on multiple charged offenses of disorderly conduct, domestic violence, alleged to have occurred on, just 1 second, today at 1 in the afternoon. Looking at the pretrial services report, noted that you were a moderate risk for new criminal activity and for failing to appear. Also note that the alleged victims in this, just to make sure, the alleged victims in this case do not want any further contact with you, and they object to release your release in this case. Are any of the alleged victims on the line today? Okay, thank you. All right, so in this case, I'm gonna impose a bond of $1,500 cash and set this matter for a video review hearing on March the 26th at 1:30 in front of Judge Millian in the Tucson City Court. So if you're able to post that bond, conditions, standard conditions will apply. Include, most importantly, that you not have any contact of any kind with any named victims, that you not go to the victim's residence or place of work, Otherwise, sir, that is all I have for you, actually. And last, I'm going to appoint the city public defender to represent you in this matter. Their contact information will be on paperwork you'll receive, so please make sure and contact them. And if you do end up posting the bond, please make sure that you are notifying your counsel so that you can be present for your hearing. If you do miss your hearing, or if you fail to appear at your hearing, a warrant could issue for your arrest. You understand? All right, that's all I have for you. Good night, sir.
So stand up. Hanson. So sit down right here in front of you.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Daphne Shadow Hansen.
All right, Miss Hanson, have you appeared tonight on 2 charges of domestic violence, assault, and domestic violence disorderly conduct. I reviewed the pretrial services workup in your case, and I understand that the alleged victim in this case is on the line. Is that correct? No? Okay. Okay. Well. All right, Miss Hanson, I'm going to first of all advise you that you do have a right to remain silent. You do have a right to an attorney, though an attorney may not be appointed to you, though you do have a right to retain one at your own expense. I'm going to set this matter for pretrial hearing on April the 18th at 9:30 a.m. in front of Judge Verena at the Tucson City Court. I'll release you on this case on your own recognizance, provided that you can promise me that you will appear at your hearing on the 18th. Can you do that?
Sir.
Okay. Standard conditions of release will apply. These include, most importantly, that you not have any contact whatsoever with the alleged victim in this case, or have visit the victim's place of work or residence. If you fail to appear at the hearing, a trial may proceed in your absence. If you're found guilty and are unable to be sentenced within 90 days of the trial due to your own absence, you may lose your right to an appeal. So, bottom line, you are going to be released. Please make sure you have no contact with the victim, and absolutely make sure that you are attending your hearing on the 18th at 9:30 in front of Judge Verena at the Tucson City Court. You understand?
Sir.
Okay, that's it. You're excused.
All right, then go out the door, sit down there with the females. Silva. So.
Good evening. Please have your full name.
Anthony Silva.
Silva. Good evening, sir. This is the time set for your initial appearance and arraignment in a matter involving several charges of disorderly conduct, domestic violence. First of all, remind you, sir, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have the right to an attorney, though one may not be appointed at no expense, but you have a right to retain one if you so choose. In reviewing the pretrial services report, I noted that the alleged victims in this case could not be reached for input on conditions of release. So in this matter, I'm going to release you on your own recognizance, provided that you can promise me you will appear at a hearing at the Tucson City Court on April the 21st at 10 a.m. Can you do that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will release you on your promise that you will appear on the 21st. However, I'm going to impose standard conditions of release to include that you do not drive without a valid license, possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, that you commit no acts of domestic violence, that you possess no firearms, have no contact of any kind with any of the named victims in this case, and to include visiting their place of work or residence. Now, do you live at the residence where any of the victims also live?
Well, yeah, that's actually the residence where I was released from.
Okay. Well, you're not going to be able to go back there upon release. So if you need assistance finding alternate housing, there is resources that the jail can point you to upon your release to find alternate housing. If you do need to return to the residence in order to gather any personal belongings, you can contact police, calling 311 and arrange for the police to be present with you to pick up your personal effects. This is a one-time ability. You call the police, they will escort you to the residence, you'll pick up your personal items, and then you will promptly leave. Just to remind you, sir, that if you miss your court date on the 21st, trial could proceed in your absence, and you may be found guilty without having the benefit of being able to present any evidence in your own defense. If you are found guilty and are unable to be sentenced within 90 days due to your failure to appear, you may lose a right to appeal that's finding of guilt and the sentence that may come along with it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Then please make sure and attend your hearing on the 21st at 10 a.m. in front of Judge Hale. You receive paperwork, but otherwise you're done for the evening, sir. You're excused.
All right, so we're gonna set up for you out the door, sit down there with the nails. All right, or so set up, we're gonna sit right there, sir. Yes, sir.
How you doing there?
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Roger Dennis Moore.
All right, Mr. Mork, have you here this evening on charges of, excuse me, disorderly conduct, domestic violence, and interfering with the judicial proceeding, domestic violence. Remind you, sir, you have the right to remain silent. Anything say can will be used against you.
Okay.
All right, sir. Viewing the pretrial services. So, do you have a question?
No, I was just wondering. No, not just wondering whenever I could go to. So I had a plan of going like maybe to Crisis and CBI and all these facilities so that I could get my help on a good way journey to like into life, you know. So like was just thinking that right now was something about that is all. Like I do it a lot, but like when I'm ready to follow up on it, for I realized how serious it was with my whole situation I got going on, and just like yeah.
All right, sir. Well, thank you. So a note that pretrial services did make contact with the alleged victim in this case, who does not wish to have any further contact with you and does object to your release from custody. Also note that you are pending 3 additional similar charges for domestic violence, interfering with the judicial proceeding in the Pima County Justice Court. So I'm going to hold you on a bond of $500, cash secured, and set an arraignment date for you for tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. in the Justice Court in front of Judge Foster.
Okay.
I'm also going to appoint Mr. Douglas Taylor to represent you. His contact information will be in the paperwork you receive. If you are able to post the bond and are released, you still must attend your hearing tomorrow, but you will have standard conditions of release apply, to include, most importantly, not having any contact with the alleged victim in this case.
Which is
and
who's
not
that?
visiting the victim's place of residence or place of work. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Then
Yes,
again,
I
you're going to
do.
be held on that bond. Your hearing is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Please make sure and make contact with Mr. Taylor between then and now if possible. Otherwise, you'll see Judge Foster tomorrow afternoon. You understand?
Yes, I do, officer. I'm a judge, right?
Yes, thank you.
Judge.
Thank you. You're excused, sir. Good evening.
Okay. Good evening.
You go downstairs, or you're gonna escort you back, right? Go ahead, go with that. Brown? Just sit right there. All right.
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
William Brown?
Mr. Brown. Is that William Charles Brown?
William Michael Charles Brown, yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Brown, it's time set for your initial appearance on charges related to domestic violence, aggravated assault, strangulation, and domestic violence kidnapping. I reviewed the pretrial services report as well as the interim complaint. I do find there to be probable cause. Does the state have position on conditions of release for Mr. Brown?
Yes, Your Honor, $60,000 bond. This person grabbed the victim's firearm whilst in a verbal argument, thereby greatly escalating it. And this was in a vehicle. When the victim exited the vehicle, he forced her to the ground and strangled her. She wasn't able to breathe. He covered her mouth so she couldn't scream for help. And he wouldn't let her leave. He held her down when she tried to flee his assault. This is incredibly dangerous. This person used a weapon, and the state need not remind the court of the statistics about lethality when there is strangulation in a DV situation. 60,000.
Thank you. Defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse me. I understand the state's concerns. However, I'm so sorry. Mr. Brown has absolutely no prior felony or misdemeanor convictions. He has verified lifelong residence in Tucson with housing and full-time employment. He doesn't have an active NVCA flag. He's scoring a 1 on both the scales. He's only 26 years old, and the victim doesn't object to his release, wants contact, and does not reside with him. So, Your Honor, while I understand the state's concerns, statistically, it appears he is ranking extremely low on reoffending, much less causing more harm, and it doesn't appear the victim herself is frightened. So for those reasons, we are asking you to give him a chance on pretrial services with a strict no contact rule.
And just to clarify, did the alleged victim in this case call in? All right. All right. All right, Ms. Brown, I am going to impose a bond of $10,000 cash secured and set this matter for a preliminary hearing on March the 31st at 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm going to appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you, and also order that if you do post the bond, that you be released to the supervision of pretrial services. While I understand the victim did express a willingness to have further contact and did not object to your release, I'm going to order that if you do post that bond, you have no further contact with the victim or visit their residence or place of work, just for the safety of all involved.
That's not a problem.
All right. So with that, sir, there's nothing else unless counsel has anything else.
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
Okay. So bond is in place. Please make sure and keep contact with your attorney, and that's it, sir. Good evening.
Oh yeah, you can go downstairs and send emails.
Well,
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Randy Reyes Grijalva.
All right, Mr. Grijalva, good evening. This is time set for your initial appearance. I have a few different matters for you this evening, sir. First is you have new charges, felony charges of possession of a narcotic drug, possession of drug paraphernalia. Well, let me just take care of something, then I had a question for the state. Mr. Alva, just to remind you, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be used against you. I am appointed the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you in this matter, and the attorney seated to your left will be representing you for the purpose of this hearing. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to talk about, please direct them to your attorney before speaking up on camera. Do you understand?
Yes.
Just to clarify something with the state, looking at the interim complaint, it's citing to ARS section 133407A1. Just clarify, I believe that would be a typo based on the facts, but just want to hear from the state. I believe it would be a citation, it should be a citation of 3408. Or am I incorrect on that?
Likely a typo, Your Honor. That said, paraphernalia alone is enough to justify the hold.
Just want to make sure that the interim complaint read correctly.
Looking at the IC on this one, as well, going ahead and looking at pretrial's website, what I am seeing, Judge, is one moment. I just had F6 and F4, Your Honor, so I think that is a Scrivener's error. It should be 8 and not 7.
Okay. Just to clarify. All right. So I have reviewed the pretrial services report, which notes that there is an adult probation hold as there is a warrant, a adult probation hold out of Santa Cruz County, and then obviously this new charge. So here for first from the state, recommendation on conditions of release.
Your Honor, state recommends a $5,000 bond, and this person may be screened for steps, but he looks like he's being detained without bond on other issues.
Fence.
Your Honor, we're asking for a nominal bond of $100. He does have a probation hold. He is being held no bond on that pending FTA felony case, and this is, as you pointed out, just a paraphernalia charge at this point.
All right. And with regard to step screening, is this something that Mr. Grijalva is interested in, even with the other holds? Feel free to discuss with him if you'd like.
Yeah, he's interested in steps, Judge, and we'll waive time on the PH.
Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Grijalva, I'm going to pose a bond of $1,000 cash or secured. With your hold, you're not going to be released even if you were to be post the bond, but you'll at least receive some time credit. I am going to set a review hearing for the STEPS program for the 27th at 9 a.m. and also a preliminary hearing date for March the 31st at 1:30 p.m. So you're going to be held on the bond, sir. If you are able to post it and are somehow released from your other hold, standard conditions will apply, and just make sure and make your hearings on the 26th and the 31st. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. For second matter for the warrant, we will notify Santa Cruz County that you are being held here, and they'll have an opportunity to either transport you down to deal with the matter you have down in Santa Cruz County or take some other actions. But just so we're not letting you fall through the cracks, we're going to set a review hearing for you on the warrant for April the 21st at 9 a.m. So that if you're still in custody, we will have a chance to revisit your conditions. Lastly, I have a matter out of the Tucson City Court on a charge of drug paraphernalia. On that, I am going to release you on your own recognizance and post standard conditions that you not drive without a valid license, possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and set a review hearing, a pretrial hearing for you in that case on May the 26th at 9 a.m. in courtroom 6 of the Tucson City Court. So if you are ultimately released and are available, please make sure and make that hearing on the 16th or a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's all I've got for you. Oh, sorry. Mr. Guzman. Good evening, and please have your full name.
Emilio Robles Guzman.
Mr. Guzman, have you here on a felony warrant out of the Pima County Justice Court that dated for the 10th of this month. Remind you, sir, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be used against you. I'm appointing the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you in this matter, and the attorney seated to your left will be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please direct them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. You understand?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. I have reviewed the pretrial services workup to get some more information on this matter. State's position on conditions of release.
Your Honor, state agrees with the $50,000 bond. This individual it's yet another situation where there is charges of DV kidnap and looks like multiple charges of DV assault and strangulation. Again, the lethality of these sorts of cases is pretty high. And then we have MVCA yes on this one, so that he is actively, pretrial seems to believe that he is a threat to cause more violent crime. 50,000.
Thank you.
Just 1 second.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is another situation where I understand the state's concerns. However, I believe pretrial services is appropriate. He's scoring low on the matrix, so much so that he's considered a level 1. He has housing apart from the victim, which is confirmed. This is from exactly a month ago. There are no new charges that have stemmed from it. He has support with his father. He has full-time employment. I know he has a newborn daughter of just a month and a half old. He doesn't have any felony priors, and he doesn't have any violent convictions. So for all these reasons, Judge, we're asking you give him a chance on pretrial services. If you are inclined for a bond, then no more than a $10,000 bond.
Thank you. I reviewed the pretrial services workup, noting the missed dates and the out-of-county arrest. I am going to honor the recommended bond amount of $50,000 secured, and order that if the defendant is able to post the bond, that he be released to pretrial services. I'm going to set a hearing in the Justice Court, preliminary hearing on the 31st at 1:30, and further order that Mr. Guzman, if you are able to post that bond, that you abide by all standard conditions, to include not having any contact with the alleged victim of any kind, to include visiting their place of work or residence. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Then your court date is the 31st. Please make sure if you do post that bond on our release that you attend and keep contact with your attorney. Otherwise, another warrant could issue for your arrest.
Yes,
That's it. You're excused.
Peter? Let's sit there.
Hello.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Yeah, Robert Charles Maynard.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Maynard. I have you here for two different matters. The first is on a warrant out of the Pima County Superior Court issued by Judge Metzger on January 13th for failing to appear at a change. I'm sorry, for failing to appear for fraudulent use of credit card charge. I remind you, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything said will be used against you. I am appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you in this matter, and the attorney seated to your left is representing you during this hearing. If you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Reviewed the pretrial services report on the matter of the warrant. Does the state have a position?
Your Honor, the state, given all of the circumstances, recommends a bond of $2,500 plus release to pretrial services.
Thank you. Defense?
Your Honor, we're asking you release him to pretrial services. This is considered a level 1 offense, or he's level 1 in the matrix. It's nonviolent. It looks like the verified housing is different address than the summons was mailed to. He was never previously arrested on this, so there's no indication he had any knowledge about this incident and intended to fail to appear at the arraignment. Additionally, the state is asking for something more than the Superior Court judge asked for at the arraignment, who has more information about this particular case. He doesn't have any violent priors. He has verified housing with his mother, doesn't have an active NVCA flag, Your Honor. So we're asking you give him a chance on pretrial services, given his lack of knowledge about this pending case.
Thank you. I'm going to honor Judge Metzger's warrant amount and order a bond of $1,000 cash secured. Further order that you, if you are able to post the bond, Mr. Maynard, that you be released to the supervision of pretrial services, that you obey all standard conditions of release, including not having any contact with the alleged victims, or returning to the incident location. I'm also going to set an arraignment date for you for the 27th of March at 1:30 in the Superior Court. And again, Pima County Public Defenders is appointed to represent you. On the other matter, we have for you a possession, a civil offense of having no valid driver's license and a charge of possession of drug paraphernalia. This is out of the Marana City Court. I will release you on this.
Gotta listen, okay?
All right, sir. So you have a pending charge in the Marana City Court for possession of drug paraphernalia and for having no valid driver's license, a civil offense. I'm going to release you on that matter and set a hearing in front of the Marana Municipal Magistrate on 16th of April at 12 p.m. I'm sorry, on the 16th at 10 a.m. I will note, though, that you are being held on the felony bond, but for purposes of this matter, you are being released. If for whatever reason you are not able to attend your hearing, please make sure and contact the Marana City Court. The contact information will be in the paperwork you receive so that you do not miss your court date. If you do miss your court date, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have for you, sir. You're excused.
Final, stay right there.
Hello.
Oh.
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
James Mitchell, sir.
Mitchell, this time set for your initial appearance on charges of possession of a narcotic drug and possession of drug paraphernalia. Remind you, sir, you do have the right to remain silent, and anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you, and the attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Again, sir, have you here for possession of a narcotic drug, possession of drug paraphernalia, state's recommendation on conditions of release.
UTS, screen for steps.
Defense.
No objection to that, Your Honor.
Okay. And sorry, just to clarify, is your client interested in the steps, and are you willing to waive time?
Yes, he is interested, Your Honor, and we will waive time.
All right. So, Mr. Mitchell, you're going to be released to pretrial services this evening, and you're going to be ordered to submit to any monitoring or treatment that they direct you to submit to. I'm going to set a hearing for you in the Superior Court on March 27th at 9 a.m. to be screened for the STEPS program, which may be a benefit to you in terms of disposing of your charges in an alternate way to the traditional way. I'm also going to set a hearing for you on April the 9th at 1:30 in case the STEPS hearing does not result in you being approved for the program. One second. I'm sorry. All right, apologies. Your steps hearing is the 27th at 9 a.m. Your preliminary hearing is scheduled for May the 5th. So if you are not approved for the steps program, you will have a hearing on May the 5th. So bottom line, keep in contact with your attorneys and make sure and let them know that if you are not going to be able to attend any of your hearings. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all I have for you. Your excuse, sir. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Myers? Mitchell? You go out the door, sit with the family, right?
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Yes, sir. Lane Jeffrey Myers.
Good evening, Mr. Myers. You are here on charges of aggravated harassment. 3 charges of aggravated harassment alleged to have occurred between on or about March 13th
Does that mean you see it?
and March 17th. I understand that private counsel is present on the line.
No, Your Honor, I'm OCAC. I was appointed to his earlier case and was surprised at being arrested in court today. Given the situation, that's why I got approved from OCAC to appear this evening, assuming I will be appointed of this one as well.
Yeah, okay. So I will point you to this matter as well. Mr. Parvin, is that good?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, reviewed the pretrial services assessment, state's recommendation.
Your Honor, Rachel Stiles for the state. Your Honor, he is on felony release. He was released on the 14th of this month to pretrial services. He has 2 of the offenses are felony offenses alleged to have been committed while on felony release. So for that reason, we would ask for him to be held without bond, thus pursuant to Article 2, Section 22, and we would request a no bond hearing to be set.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Mr. Parvin, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I was just looking online. It said charging alternate correction. I don't know if the complaint's been filed. I was just only looking at the website, so I wasn't sure if the actual complaint was entered yet or the charge. But regards to that, Mr. Myers, none of these offenses are violent. They would be bailable as a matter of right if they were all filed at the same time. Mr. Myers has never missed court. And in fact, this is kind of gotten media attention where there's numerous people posting about it. It's not maybe even across the world based on a YouTube channel. There's multiple people that are making videos. It's not Mr. Myers. That is the problem. The state keeps accusing Mr. Myers of felonies that he didn't do if he's not the one who made the video. That's what the trial is for. Next Friday, the court set an evidentiary hearing next Friday on whether Mr. Myers, in fact, violated any release conditions or did anything the state's alleging now. It was quite a surprise to be picked up on new charges when we have this hearing next Friday to determine whether there's any basis or not. With that in mind, Your Honor, Mr. Myers also got permission to proceed pro se for that hearing. He needs to prepare for that hearing where the state's going to present videos and evidence next Friday. It's already set. There's no threats of violence or anything. Mr. Myers is not a threat to anyone. There's no reason why he can't be released and then go to this hearing on Friday. And if the state proves their case on Friday, where there's more likely than not for a person of that evidentiary hearing that these offenses were committed, then yes, at that time, Mr. Myers can be brought into custody next Friday. But if they can't, well, that's the real problem. And certainly right now, Your Honor, it's given the fact there's no violence alleged and there's so many people involved here on YouTube and doing things that Mr. Myers may or may not even know about. it's not really fair to keep him in custody, Your Honor, when he's gone to every single court date. He hasn't missed anything. He submitted his own motions explaining why he thinks this case is unfair to him. All we're asking for, Your Honor, is to maintain the current hearing of next Friday where this all gets settled and that Mr. Myers be released with any conditions the court determines, maybe obviously no contact with the victim. That's not going to happen. Given the situation, maybe the court for at least 1 week could order Mr. Myers no participating in any YouTube videos, whether it's his own or a third-party video, just no doing interviews, at least for 1 week. I think it'd be okay, Mr. Myers, until we get that hearing next Friday. That way, if anything does happen, we know it's not Mr. Myers doing it. And that's what I think would be fair, Your Honor, if you offer release conditions, because even though there is an alleged felony on pretrial release, if you look at the standard, you have to find there's enough evidence right now that it's a great likelihood where the felony was committed before you can make it non-bailable.
So, Your Honor, Rachel Stiles, again, that is not correct. The court does not have discretion tonight to do anything other than to hold him no bond. He is then entitled to a no bond hearing, and then at that hearing, then the state will put on the evidence to meet the standard. So for tonight's purposes, it's just that he is alleged to have now committed new felonies while on felony release, so a no bond hearing must be set.
That's not what the rule says for initial appearance, though. The court at least says to find probable cause and go into the bail requirements.
It does.
I'm looking at least the court has at least find sort of probable cause for the complaint, whatever evidence is presented. And then let's go into the next rule on right to release. And that's where it says the court can do that. It has to at least have some evidence why Mr. Myers would be a danger. The court still has to find a reason why he needs to be held up on tonight.
Yes. The court has.
Thank you both. Identify probable cause to believe that one or more of the offenses has been committed. I will grant the state's request to hold the defendant without bond, set a no bond hearing for March 25th at 2:30 in the afternoon. Mr. Parvins, you are appointed as counsel.
What time is it? Is it March 25th?
March the 25th at 2:30 in the afternoon, sir.
Okay, that should barely work.
Thank you for being flexible, sir. That's it for tonight. Mr. Parvins, you're excused. Mr. Meyer, you're also excused.
Am I allowed to go?
Yes, sir. But therefore, you say everything report. Robles, you sit down right here.
Hello. She have a hold. She have a hold.
Yeah, and I have a full-time job. So.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Fiora Renee Robles.
All right. Counsel, do you need a moment with your client?
No.
Okay. All right. Ms. Robles, good evening. This is the time set for your initial appearance. Have you here on two different matters. The first is a warrant out of the Superior Court for failing to appear on charges related to endangerment and unlawful flight from law enforcement. Bond was issued by Judge Metzger on November the 3rd, 2023, with the requested amounts of $1,000. Second matter I have for you tonight is additional charges that have been filed alleging an unlawful flight from law enforcement to have occurred on 19 July 2024. Remind you, ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You do have a right to an attorney, and I am appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. If you have any questions or concerns, please raise them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes.
Of the pretrial services statement to get additional information on Mr. Robles, the state's position on conditions of release.
Your Honor, Neil Poston for the state, $1,000 on the earlier matter per Judge Metzger's previous order. And given that it would look like we only were able to get her in custody again because she caught another charge, $5,000 plus pretrial. She's a 5 out of 6, and the state's otherwise submits on the record.
Thank you. Defense.
Your Honor, we're asking to release her to pretrial services. She's been on felony probation since March of 2023, so over 2 years at this point. She spoke to her PO before coming in here. Her PO agreed not to file a probation hold. She has no PTRs that were filed because she's doing well on probation. These are from 2022 and 2024, allegedly. There's no indication she won't show up for court, as again, she's on probation with no violations. She has verified housing support with her mother and employment. All of her priors are nonviolent. She doesn't have an active NVCA flag. So, Your Honor, given the situation that she's already being heavily supervised on probation and they didn't find it warranted to put a type of hold on her, they weren't worried about her being a flight risk, we'd ask that you give her pretrial services.
Thank you. On the matter of the warrant, I'm going to honor Judge Metzger's request and impose a bond of $1,000 cash is secured, and order standard conditions of release will apply. I'm going to set this matter for an arraignment on March the 27th at 1:30. And on the other matter, I'll impose a bond of $500 cash secured. Standard conditions will apply. I'm not going to order the defendant to pretrial services since she has probation already overseeing her. And I'll set that matter for a preliminary hearing on March the 31st at 1:30 p.m. and the public defender is appointed in that case as well. So with both matters, Mr. Robles, there is going to be a bond. If you post those bonds, please make sure and contact your attorney. Keep in contact. And be sure not to miss any of your hearings. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. You're excused. Thank you.
Thomas.
Hello.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Simon Thomas.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Simon Thomas.
First time. Yes, Mr. Thomas. Good evening. This is time set for your initial appearance. Have you here on a complaint of aggravated domestic violence, aggravated assault, impeding airway domestic violence, and aggravated harassment domestic violence. Reminder, so you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be held against you. You do have a right to an attorney, and I am appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes.
I have reviewed the pretrial services report, noting that the defendant is a 4 and a 2 respectively on the NCA and FTA scales, and that the efforts to contact the alleged victim in this case were unsuccessful. It's the state's recommendation on conditions of release.
Your Honor, he has two prior DV convictions in the last 84 months. Victim in both was his mom, and the victim in this case is his mom. There was strangulation. He strangled his mom to the point where she urinated on herself. This was in the course of an argument that he also shoved her around, causing her some injuries to her elbow. Your Honor, $60,000. If this person isn't held on a substantial bond, he's going to kill his own mom.
All right. Thank you. Defense.
Your Honor, I understand the state's concerns. However, I don't appreciate such a jump in logic in accusing him of a crime that he is not even alleged to have accused or committed at this point. He is also unemployed at this point, and he doesn't have any verified employment. So we don't believe that $60,000 is necessary in this case. It's not the least onerous given his financial situation, and we'd be asking for no more than $10,000.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Thomas, I'm going to impose a bond of $20,000 cash or secured and order that if you do post that bond, that you will be released to the supervision of pretrial services. If you do post a bond and are released, you will participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. You will abide by all standard conditions of release to include not driving without a valid license, possessing or consuming any alcohol or illegal drugs, committing no acts of domestic violence, possessing no firearms or weapons, and more importantly, not having any contact with the alleged victim or visiting their place of work or their residence. I'm going to set a hearing for you on this matter on March the 31st at 1:30 in the afternoon in the Justice Court. And again, Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. So, sir, if you are able to post that bond with a cash or secured, please make sure and maintain contact with pretrial services and your attorney. And more importantly, do not miss your hearing on the 31st. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. That's all I have for you tonight, sir. You're excused.
Valencia.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Renee Valencia.
Mr. Valencia, good evening. This is the time set for your initial appearance. I have you here on a charge of unlawful use of a means of transportation, alleged to have been committed on, today. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to an attorney, and I am appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purpose of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please direct them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Sure.
All right. Read the pretrial services report in this case, noting that the defendant is a 6 and 6 on the NCAA and FTA scales, respectively. That he is believed to be a lifelong resident of Tucson, currently unemployed. But the pretrial service was not able to read or verify any references. What's the state's position on conditions of release?
State submits on the written record, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense.
Your Honor, I'd like to be heard on probable cause. So I'm looking at this complaint and it's very bare bones. There's absolutely no indication as to how they identified Mr. Valencia, as to how he was the person who was involved in this incident. The offense location and the arrest location are different, so he wasn't even arrested at the scene. They've just inserted his name and accused him of a crime, and I don't believe that meets the statute for probable cause, and we'd ask you release him to pretrial services.
If a pretrial, I'm sorry, I am going to release him to pretrial services. And this matter. I'm going to order that he obey by all standard conditions of release, to include not having any contact with the alleged victims and not visiting the incident location or the victim's place of residence or work. I'll set this matter for a hearing on the 31st of March at 1:30 in the afternoon. Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent him. So, Mr. Valencia, you are going to be released pretrial services. Please make sure and make contact with them and submit to any monitoring or treatment that they have directed for you. Also, please make sure and contact the Pima County Public Defender's Office. And more importantly, make sure you are attending your hearing on the 31st. Do you understand?
Sir.
All right, you're excused.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that's everything. Does jail have anything or anyone further?